Well, occasionally we happen to stream during historic social and cultural events. There is a ceasefire deal that has been reached in the war in Gaza. Pretty big one. We're now going on what? I'm just going to say a number here. What, 15 months with the ongoing assault of Israel on Gaza after the Hamas attacks on Israel. Um, it's a big deal. This is something that I feel like you know, uh, has been the largest and most influential and most controversial socio-political and geopolitical touchstone in world politics for over a year. It's, you know, changed a lot of public discourse. It's had a huge effect on university campuses and the media. People have Am I there? Am I there? Am I there? Am I there? Wow. So start no one heard anything till now. All right, cool. Um, okay. Hopefully I'm back, guys. So it's a pretty big deal. I don't know anything thus far. Okay, guys. I showed up at the studio today and saw a text message about the ceasefire deal going through. So I don't know if it's good, bad, true, false, right, wrong, up, down, right, left, center, any of these sorts of things. I figure because it's recent news, a lot of us don't know. So there's some other stuff we want to talk about today. We're going to watch the Hasan Piker and Bernie Sanders interview. We're going to talk about some of the Senate confirmation hearing news, look at some comments, talk to you, things of that nature. But we figured it's appropriate that we'll start with this so we at least all get our heads around what's happening.
Chat telling me you were only out for the seconds where I faded it on the article, so your rant
Great.
wasn't completely lost.
Amazing. And again, if you're tuning in now, this is Wisecrack Live. It's Wednesday, January 15th. I'm Michael Burns here with our wonderful producer, Henry, and the best chat and community in the game. God, I got like a piece of fuzz on my laptop. Okay, so let's look at this PBS story. You know, we're taking it very nonpartisan here with the PBS. Title is Israel and Hamas agree to ceasefire deal to pause Gaza war and release some hostages. Israel and Hamas agreed to a ceasefire deal. Mediators announced pausing a devastating 15-month war in the Gaza Strip and raising the possibility of winding down the deadliest and most destructive fighting between the bitter enemies. And just to note the stakes of this, this has been an absolutely devastating war on the people of Gaza. There's even a headline on the side I see right here. More than 46,000 Palestinians killed in Israel-Hamas war, Gaza health officials said, and that's from. We know that most of the victims in this war have been women and children. And we know that along with death, there's been mass starvation, disease, the complete eradication of infrastructure. They've destroyed the universities, destroyed the hospitals, and the leadership of the Israeli government and military themselves have talked about eradicating Palestinian people as if they are animals. There's been pretty verifiable reporting about IDF soldiers being commanded to do stuff like shoot Gazan kids in the legs just to show them who's boss. It's been a brutal and horrific sort of war. So I will say that any stop in this fighting, anything that could help, aid get into Gaza, anything that could stop the killing, I like. Because my hot take is I don't like when people get killed. The deal, coming after weeks of painstaking negotiations in the Qatari capital, promised to release the dozens of hostages held by Hamas in phases, the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners in Israel, and would allow hundreds of thousands of people displaced in Gaza to return to what remains of their homes. Probably not a lot. It would flood badly needed humanitarian aid, and that's the humanitarian aid is huge because Israel is very tightly controlled, both humanitarian aid and journalists. People who could sort of give us an account of what is happening. So there you go. Let's see. Thanks for liking the stream twice Barbara. Yeah, Mav, you can let us know if there's any news of any sort coming through on this. Going back to the article, 3 officials from the U.S. and 1 from Hamas confirmed that a deal had been reached. All 3 U.S. officials requested anonymity. Joe Biden was preparing to address the breakthrough agreement later Thursday. Any agreement still needs to be approved by Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet. Expected to deliver an initial 6-week halt to fighting. That is to be accompanied by the opening of negotiations and ending the war altogether over 6 weeks. 33 of the nearly 100 hostages would be reunited with their loved ones after months in captivity. It's unclear when and how many displaced Palestinians would be able to return to what remains of their homes. That language, what remains of their homes, and whether the agreement will lead to a complete end of the war and the full withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. Many longer-term questions about post-war Gaza remain, including who will rule the territory, oversee the daunting task of reconstruction. I mean, yeah. I have thoughts I won't share yet. Still, the announcement offered the first sign of hope in months that Israel and Hamas may be winding down the most deadly and destructive war they've ever fought. Hamas triggered the war with its October 7th cross-border attack. And let's see. Israel responded with a fierce offensive that has killed over 46,000 Palestinians, according to local health officials, displaced an estimated 90% of Gaza's population and sparked a humanitarian crisis. Okay, they're just kind of recounting the war. Yeah, they think that 90% of the 2.3 million people have been displaced, often multiple times. Tens of thousands of homes have been destroyed. Hospitals are barely functioning. Experts have warned that famine may be underway in northern Gaza. Let's see. The best day in my life, in the life of the Gaza people, Abed Radwan, a Palestinian father of 3, said of the ceasefire deal, "Thank God, thank God." Radwan, who's been displaced from the town of, I'll say this wrong, so apologies in advance to any of our Palestinian homies, Bet Lai for over a year and shelters in Gaza City, said he'll return to his hometown. People are crying here. They don't believe it's true. Biden, who's provided crucial military. I mean, yeah, the most recent thing Biden did was like $6 billion of weapons. It was some massive weapons deal on his way out the door. Biden could have done something really based on his way out the door, but is what it is. Okay, it says the first phase will last for 6 weeks, include a full and complete ceasefire, withdrawal of Israel forces from densely populated areas, the release of hostages, including women, older adults, and wounded people. Humanitarian assistance would surge, hundreds of trucks entering Gaza each day. Second most difficult phase will include the release of all living hostages, including male soldiers, and Israeli forces would withdraw from Gaza. The third phase calls for a major reconstruction of Gaza, which faces decades of rebuilding from devastation caused by war. Decades of rebuilding. Also, you guys ever read The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein, the way in which often disasters and catastrophes get used to be monetized and used by neoliberal systems and political forces? It's hard to imagine a world where Gaza being rebuilt doesn't involve some very sus stuff. Hamas has been demanding assurances for a permanent end to the war and complete withdrawal. The various players have conducted months of on-again, off-again negotiations. But with Biden's days in office numbered and President-elect Donald Trump set to take over, both sides have been under heavy pressure. Trump celebrated the announcement in a posting on Truth Social. Just a reminder that Wisecrack Live is sponsored by Truth Social. If you want to be social and true, go to Truth Social. He said, "We have a deal for the hostages." He's all caps, so I have to yell. "We have a deal for the hostages in the Middle East. They will be released shortly. Thank you." Okay. Let's see. International Court of Justice, genocide. No one likes Netanyahu. Let's see. Just kind of scrolling down. Yeah, ceasefire takes hold. Both sides face many difficult unanswered questions as the war winds down. Netanyahu will face growing calls for post-war investigations that could find him at least partially responsible for the security failures of October 7th. There's no plan for who will govern Gaza after the war. Israel said it will work with local Palestinians not affiliated with Hamas or the Western-backed Palestinian Authority. I'm sure they'll be cool. I'm sure they'll be great. But let's see, blah, blah,
The
blah. These
next
plans,
sentence is, but it is unclear if such partners exist.
that's good. That's good. And skipping down a paragraph, it says those plans depend on credible progress towards the creation of a Palestinian state, something Netanyahu and much of Israel's political class oppose. Netanyahu says Israel will maintain open-ended security control over Gaza as well as the occupied West Bank territories. So, like, you know, we'll end the
Credible
war,
progress.
but we're going to do apartheid. In the absence of a post-war arrangement with Palestinian support, Hamas is likely to remain a significant force in Gaza and could reconstitute its military capabilities if Israel forces fully withdraw. I'm going to say a thing, and I want you guys to work with me here. I want you to stay with me. I want you to know that I'm saying this in as objective of a way as I can. You're always asking for more objectivity. If you are someone who is Gazan and you have spent 15 months watching your people be, according to some, genocided by the Israeli military, if you've watched, 90% of the population get displaced, have you seen homes and hospitals destroyed? I mean, we talk about like radicalization, and I think sometimes we act as if people who are like radicalized into terror or whatever, it's because they like read a blog post. But the thing that feels scary to me is like, how do you come back from that? I'll speak not about that situation, but I'll speak about a situation that I can relate to through ancestry. You read about some of the stuff that happened in the 60s and 70s in, Ireland, Britain and Northern Ireland. And some of it, sounds bad and scary. And you're like, oh my God, people, bombs and stuff. This isn't good. We don't like this. And of course we don't like this. But then you got to think about like, what does it take for people to go that far? What does it take for people to feel like they are willing to risk their lives and the lives of others to end systems of political oppression? And, as we've seen, just again to use the example of the north of Ireland, it's really hard to sort of just my bad generations of oppression and occupation. And it's hard for that cultural memory to ever fully subside. And for example, like I know people and have friends and family who are Irish or of Irish descent, who I don't think would ever be like, England's cool and the monarchy rips. Like they'll always kind of be like, fuck those guys. And again, I'm speaking about that because I feel like I'm more comfortable speaking about that situation as analogical. I think that's what one says for what's going on there. But that's just a thought. That's just a thought. And note that I'm not saying that that's like cool and good. It says autofocus struggling. Uh-oh. Am I doing it with the thing? But it's just hard. It's hard to imagine how stuff like this ends. Michael Dudley says people realize a ceasefire isn't. Are you saying peace? Right. I realize that. Spencer said I lived in Ireland in 2011. Took an Irish history course there. They definitely still hate the crown. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm being subtle there, but I'm very aware. And like, and you guys know this about me. It's a good Irish Republican. On behalf of my ancestors, I hate the British monarchy and the crown, and think that it shouldn't exist. And the day that the the crown falls or the monarchy falls, I'll play 9 hours of the wolf tones come out ye black and tans and dance. So let's see. Platonic exorcism says, is the Israeli offensive truly a war? Yeah, honestly, I don't think it's a war, but that's just me. I don't think it's a war. I think it's a attack, a genocide, an occupation, things of that nature. But I'm not here to be spicy. People got mad at me on Monday. So, um, and someone said RIP the innocent victims. And yeah, and I think that's the thing too. I think like hopefully we can all acknowledge that this is at least my vibe. This doesn't have to be your vibe. But um innocent people who are not actively involved in the maintenance or construction of the occupation have died in this conflict. And that's just like, and I don't say this to be glib, it fucking sucks. Like it sucks and is bad. And I think that what we also, yeah, Jesper said, let's say a fair few with an Irish connection celebrated the Queen's death and we'll celebrate Charles' death. Jesper Christensen, you probably don't remember this, guys. One of our early streams that is no longer available on YouTube because it was taken down was I said before we've streamed on some historical days. We streamed the morning that the Queen expired. And one of the reasons that video is no longer online is because at the end, I was playing music videos from Irish songs that showed some scenes from military activity by the IRA, and YouTube was not impressed. That was, I would say that was the biggest single day for stream growth. And it was also the biggest single day for people to get really mad at me. And I got a bunch of emails about how my tacit support for the Irish Republican cause was bad. Thank you for those of you who like spicy, Michael. I think spicy is actually a good analogy for the Michael experience. I'm going to talk about myself like I'm not here because, spice is one of those things where a lot of people hate spicy food, but the people who like it really like it. And I feel like, some of you fuck with the kid. And I feel like a lot of other people take one bite of this and they just want nothing to do with it. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that. I'd rather be spicy such that some people love it or the others hate it than to be just fine, just mid. That's where I'm at. There's a Bible verse about that too, I think. Okay, but thanks for being here. Please like the stream. Let's check out, was it the AP thing that had the deal? Yeah. So there's this AP article, a look at the terms and tensions in the Israel-Hamas draft ceasefire deal. And I'll just say this, I know that things are unfolding actively, so feel free in the chat to let us know if any shit is going down. I shouldn't swear. I'm swearing too much. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this AP thing, it says, if the Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal goes according to current draft, fighting will stop in Gaza for 42 days. Hostages, yada yada. Will it survive beyond that first phase? This will depend on even more negotiations meant to begin within weeks. Let's see. Hamas has agreed to a draft. Okay, so here's the draft of the Israel-Hamas ceasefire deal. Phase 1. Hamas releases 33 hostages, including female civilians and soldiers, children, and civilians over 50. Israel releases 30 Palestinian prisoners for each civilian hostage and 50 for each female soldier. Oh, that's interesting. That's how we know what people are worth. So we know that one civilian is worth 30 Palestinians and each female soldier is worth 50. Shouts to Gal Gadot. There's a halt to fighting. Forces move out of populated areas to the edges of the Gaza Strip. I mean, that's interesting because, like, obviously you want forces out of your cities, but then it just sort of like you're still surrounded by the IDF. Displaced Palestinians begin returning home. More aid enters the Strip. I wonder if this will come up in this, but I do wonder, and a thing I've been thinking about, and some of you probably know this, one of the big turning points in the, domestic perception of the war in Vietnam is when reporters went there. And there's, legendary news clips of American reporters who are filming as American soldiers just start like burning down the houses of old Vietnamese farmers. And the reporters are kind of like, wait, what the fuck is going on? This is what we're doing. And those got, put on TV over here. And then people started to be like, oh, maybe this is bad. One of the big issues we've had in this conflict is we haven't had on the ground journalists at the level we should in a conflict like this. Foreign reporters have not been allowed in there. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, guys. But part of me thinks that should be a part of this. That if we're really going to, because a part of ending or moving beyond any historical conflict is reckoning with the thing. So I'm just going to use the Irish example again. One of the things that had to happen for the ceasefire deal, like the Good Friday Agreement, and I might get some of these details wrong, guys, between the north of Ireland and England, is they did a sort of full report on Bloody Sunday was it Derry where that happened? And, when Bloody Sunday initially happens, a bunch of British troops are just blasting unarmed Irish folks. Killed a bunch, was it 12 people, I think? And then after the fact, the full report from the British military and government was just like, they did nothing wrong. They were simply defending themselves against the Irish heathens. No charges will be leveled against the British soldiers. And that's the fucking word for like 30 years, whatever it was. And it wasn't until Tony Blair's the prime minister, they do a sort of truth and reconciliation type thing. They go back and they do a full report, and then they're like, oh, sorry, that was our bad. We did a bunch of murders. But it's important. Like, it doesn't bring back people who have died. But I think there's an importance of having an accurate historical record of atrocities and letting journalists and historians and reporters experience that. Phase 2 says declaration of sustainable calm. Hamas frees remaining male hostages in exchange for a yet to be negotiated number of Palestinian prisoners and a full withdrawal of troops from the Gaza Strip. Phase 3, the exchange of bodies, implementation of a reconstruction plan in Gaza. But I wonder too, like, when that happens, are people from Gaza, is the average Gazan going to be like, oh, the people that just destroyed us and arguably genocided us, do we want them like reconstructing our thing? I don't know. Again, and border crossing for movement in and out of Gaza are reopened. So I wonder if that phase 3 is when journalists would be allowed in as well. Let's see. So I'm looking at the part that says Israeli pullback. During the proposed deal's first phase, Israeli troops are to pull back into a buffer zone about 1 kilometer wide inside Gaza. I don't know about you. I would feel pretty calm and peaceful if I was just surrounded by military on all sides. This will allow displaced Palestinians to return home, even though their homes were destroyed. I did say I've seen people note as well that in Los Angeles, people are freaking out about air quality relative to those fires and building materials. And someone was like, yeah, dog, you ever think about the fact that everyone in Gaza has to deal with that because their shit got blown up and destroyed and their air probably sucks and the little children are just breathing it constantly? That sucks. Let's see. Okay, I'm just kind of scrolling down. There's still going to be inspections, yada, yada. Israel will retain control of the Philadelphia corridor. Israel controls Philadelphia now? Dumb joke. Listen, that was a dumb joke, but I'm comfortable with it. Okay, humanitarian aid in the first phase. Aid entry to Gaza is to be ramped up. Okay. That's important. But there's also still going to be some stuff there. The second phase, just kind of scrolling through this, guys. Israel said it will not agree to a complete withdrawal until Hamas military and political abilities are eliminated and it cannot rearm. I just don't know what that means. Does that mean I just don't know what that looks like? Both sides have to agree to an alternative for governing Gaza. Hamas has to agree to its own removal from power. Okay. Hamas has wanted a written guarantee that a ceasefire would continue as long as needed. Israel has given no assurances. Okay. The last thing I want to look at right now, before we just chat, because we love chatting. We're a chatty bunch. Hold on 1 second, gang. Where was the thing I saw? I think I sent it to Henry.
Which thing are you looking for?
I'm looking for the tweet that was like from the Washington Post, and it said, wait, did I not send that to you? Oh my God, I'm so confused.
Yeah, that's not ringing a bell. I remember something from the Financial Times, and I just sent you something in regards to Anthony Blinken, but that doesn't sound
Yeah,
like either of those things.
hold on. Oh, I told you about it, but then I never sent the link. Guys, I'm an idiot. Well, I'm not an
No,
idiot.
you're
Let me
not.
find. I think I can find this thing because I remember where I saw it. Give me 1 second, big dogs. Um, okay, here we go. I'm going to send you a link to this right now. Wait, this is just a quote. It's from a Washington Post thing. There's a diplomat briefed on the ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas, credited progress in the talks in part to the influence of Donald Trump, saying it was the first time there had been real pressure on the Israeli side to accept a deal. Um, I'm simply noting that that's wild. That the Trump factor is seemingly what put this one over the edge. Um, oh, Logan Reeves does point out that that's really good, Logan. Israel made a good Israel. Logan made a good joke. Israel did not make a good joke. Um, yeah, hostages versus prisoners, that's a thing. Hey, I'm glad people liked my posh accent. You know, I worked on it. I've worked on my posh accent. You know, like the stream if you're here. So I don't know. I don't know what else there is to get into on this, guys. I think maybe we could move on. I think not that anyone cares about my particular thoughts about this, although that's not true. Some of you probably do if you're here hanging out. You probably at least don't not care. Um, you know, I think that if this means, at least for a little bit, innocent people stop dying and soldiers stop abusing their powers in horrific ways, it's good in the short term. I think that long term, it still leaves us with the question of how do we collectively reckon with atrocities like this, and how do we, you know, how is America going to navigate its relationship with Israel? Because Donald Trump has made pretty clear that he's a big, like, you know, Netanyahu is my guy. And I think that one of the, and I said, and I believe there, um, hell yeah, Mav. But, and thanks for like 100. But, a lot of us, I think, did feel during the election like it was worth voting for Harris, even if we didn't believe in the overall project, because at bottom it was going to be better for the potential of Gaza and the future of Palestinians in general. I don't really know what to make um, of the fact that Donald Trump is going to, I don't even think he already is. Donald Trump is going to take credit for this deal. Donald Trump is going to say, for 15 months, the Democrats could have done this. Donald Trump's going to say, this deal's been in place for, since June, and those, Democratic pussies just weren't able to push it through, but I could. Like, that's going to be the narrative. I might be wrong, but I'm probably not going to be wrong on this one. And that is a narrative that really does complicate, I think, some of our assumptions about, the Democrats trying hard to make this deal and all this sort of stuff. It complicates all of that pretty aggressively. I also think, like, I think this sets up a weird precedent too, where I'm going to say something now that I think there's a 10% chance that happens. Okay. This is a wild take. It's not spicy, but it's wild. There's a 10% chance that in the next couple of weeks, Donald Trump does something like announce that he's going to use executive power to forgive student loan debt or something. I know you're thinking, that's crazy, Michael. Why would he do that? I'll tell you why. One, it would absolutely troll and devastate the Democrats. It would make Joe Biden look like a feckless little bitch. And that's what I think Trump wants to do. A big part of Trump's project is going to be the delegitimization of the Democratic Party. So I got to adjust my underwear. Um, And I think that's an important thing for him. If anyone watches Curb Your Enthusiasm, do you remember when Larry started Latte Larry's because as a spite store to punish Mocha Joe? If you haven't seen that, it's great. But you know, Donald Trump is like a dark version of the Latte Larry ethos. He operates in terms of spite. And there's a world where he could do something like use executive power to abolish student loan debt, which would make Biden look like a bitch, which would do something that, young people have been clamoring for. Not young people, people with debt in general. And if he's able to, like, in the first 2 weeks, be like, I ended the war and I ended student debt. Fuck, man. Fuck. Um, and, like, the thing is, he's going to do something like that. So might as well be student loan debt. I don't know. But we're in for a ride, guys. We're in for a ride here. Henry, do you have any thoughts on the ceasefire stuff?
Yeah, it's contingent on so much phase stuff that I think you gotta sort of wait and see how it plays out, because it seems like we're just returning to the usual structural setup as far as like an occupied Gaza goes with the buffer zone. And um, I don't know how much of this is a play for Americans to either say, Biden did this on his way out, or Trump did it on his way in, and now it's a news item I don't have to think about, because it's cynical of me, but that's what I'm feeling. It really is it's kind of a playing at the attention span of our side of this conflict as observers,
Mm-hmm.
rather than participants or understanders of what's really going on.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm just looking at I sent you a couple. I'm looking at some tweets right now because the reactions are coming in. I sent you a couple. The first the first one is from Sean the Black, a streamer who I like. Someone who wait, I thought we fought. Why do we not follow Sean on here? Um, Someone who I've talked to about coming on the stream, so I want to bug him to come on soon. But Sean Black said every single Democrat said a ceasefire with pressure was impossible. Co-signed the deaths of countless Palestinians. Was it worth it? So some people are looking at this thinking, the slow moving pace of the Democrats led to needless death. Brandy Jensen, a good writer and poster, so just a good online person, said, tempted to believe in hell, knowing full well that's where I would end up, if only for the opportunity to say fuck you to Joe Biden down there. That's a take, you know? I would say that's a take if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, it does raise further questions about what facilitated this, both because it's so opportune around the presidential election time for it to be such a story to have a take on.
Yeah. So we'll see, but I don't know. I would definitely say, and yeah, Henry does have a good take. I agree with you, Sam. Yeah, I would just say that my thought, take, etc. on this. How old were you when you stopped saying etc. and started saying etc. Guys, let me know. Um, but I think that this is hopefully a positive thing for people in Gaza. I think this is going to be a really bad look for the Democrats, and I think that maybe that actually is a good lead-in to something else we wanted to talk about today, which was the interview with Hasan and Bernie. Yeah. Um, oh wait, which channel is Hasan's actual channel? Is it the HasanAbi channel? Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hold on one second. I'm just tagging Hasan in this, and I wanted to make sure I get the right thing. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm just changing our thumb, getting the show info updated. And then we'll pull up. Yeah, sorry, I get confused because there's so many Hasan reaction channels that I always want to like tag the right one. Um, So yeah, the reason I was saying I think it's a decent transition here is because one of the things that comes up in this interview is the ineptitude or fecklessness of the Democratic Party and their inability to get stuff done. And I do think at this point, if you are vaguely leftist, vaguely progressive, or just like vaguely into the idea of humans not getting genocided, I think that it's becoming increasingly hard to justify that party. I'm going to use a horrible transition right now and say I've been so exhausted recently. I've been so tired emotionally and existentially. A lot of what I've been thinking about in recent days is, you know, the inevitability of certain forms of ecological collapse precipitated by human behavior and the way in which we act like these things can't happen and then they do happen, and we all live in this sort of collective self-delusion because we can't deal with the acknowledgement of how bad things are and how bad things are going to get. I know this relates to the idea of hyper normalization. I've been stressed thinking about things like, am I putting my child's life in danger by letting her breathe air in Los Angeles? I've had to talk to my partner who's feeling very anxious about all this. I've had to hear stories of people that I know or friends of friends who have just lost everything in a fire. And of course, in reaction to that, I've seen, stories of financial exploitation by the real estate industry, by the insurance industry. So I've been very tired. And one way that I cope with this tiredness is coffee. Okay? Coffee. I'm currently drinking coffee out of this cup. This is a cup I have from the Kookaburra Coffee in St. Augustine, Florida. I famously threw up repeatedly in the parking lot of that coffee shop. And the coffee I'm drinking out of it is some Yes Please. It's not this one. It's another version of the mix. This is their G status. People often say that I have sort of a G status to me. Yes Please is our favorite coffee. They're our official coffee partner here at Wisecrack. If you go to the link in the description, use code Wisecrack, you get 20% off Yes Please coffee. I'll say this pretty confidently. Every person who's reached out to us or mentioned it in the chat or in the comments who's gotten this coffee is like, oh shit, that coffee rips. And I don't know, like sometimes when life sucks, I really mean this, like we need little pleasures to feel good. Some people go real hard with that and like do hard drugs and stuff. And I'm not here to be a cop and judge you if you do hard drugs. I think you shouldn't. But coffee is a nice, it's a nice legal stimulant. Making it can be fun. Drinking it is fun. It makes you feel good. Some studies say it's good for you. So if you're going to do that, I would just say check out Yes Please coffee. I feel like we never talk about, I feel like Henry you're officially a tea guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fine too. We accept it. Well, I know we got to find a tea partner one day. So yeah, if anyone knows a cool like independent tea company, let us know. Hold on. Just
Get you working
updating.
with West China Tea. We'll all be on Red Note soon.
Oh no. Oh no, maybe we'll talk about Red Note later. If you're
No,
on
yeah,
Red Note.
I see it as a good thing. Everybody have fun in the comments. Get to know people who don't speak the same language as you. Have fun with it.
I do think that sounds fun. That part of it sounds very fun. It's good to know people that aren't like you and interact with them culturally. I think that's great. Um, why is maybe it's because I tagged Bernie. We now have like a United States election warning thing on the stream. That's weird. Someone said Spirit Tea here in Chicago. Okay, cool. Eric Rodriguez, should I move to Chicago? Should I just do that? I might. Sam on Sam Violence got a coffee grinder. Lori Christian has been doing ketamine. I keep thinking about that. And Porkin's about to get a new job. Congrats. Michael in Toronto. I do pour over, and then sometimes in the afternoon now I make a pot of French press. That's been my new thing recently. Blasphemous says that's the most forced transition I've ever heard. Just like the Democrats, I'm trying to do forced transitions on all of you. I'm just kidding. But please do, like the stream if you haven't. We appreciate you being here. I've been insecure or worried since the stream on Monday because a lot of people got really mad at it because I said mean stuff about Zuckerberg. I had an existential crisis because someone said that I like bullied Mark Zuckerberg by saying he dressed stupid and I'm beneath that. And honestly, I'm not, that's not beneath me. It's just not saying, here's what I won't do. I will never make fun of someone's physical appearance, right? Because God made you look that way. And who am I to judge the handiwork of the Lord? But God didn't make you wear a dumb shirt. You know what I'm saying? So if I make fun of someone for wearing a dumb shirt, I think I feel comfortable with that because they could take a dumb shirt off. I'll tell you where I feel doubly comfortable with this. If someone is broke, I'm not going to make fun of you for what you wear. You know, we all probably had things when I was a kid at a certain point. I remember like the clothing options were like what we had. When I was pretty young, I wasn't allowed to flex. If we know people who are broke, it's like, dog, wear what you got to wear. I totally get it. But if you are one of the richest people on the planet, I'll make fun of you if you dress stupid. Because A, that's not natural. The Lord didn't make you dress stupid. And B, you have the access to capital and financial resources by which you could wear anything. Because, you know, I don't always dress great. I'm sure you guys don't as well. But if we had infinity money, I bet we'd all look great. So I'm going to say that I'm comfortable with that. And someone said making fun of billionaires in any form is allowed. I also think that is okay. And then someone said, you know, my only hesitance is shitting on how people look is some people you love, agree with, might look or dress that way. I mean, yeah, I think that's true. But they're also not billionaire pricks who have like a colonial project on the island of Kauai. So there you go. But yeah, but I'll be like, this is a little overshare with you guys. But what happens whenever we do a stream like Monday where we talk about Mark Zuckerberg, we lose like a lot of subscribers. And I think it's because there's an older contingent of the Wisecrack audience that was a little bit chud adjacent and they don't really pay attention to the channel. And then something like that pops up and they're like, what is this? And then those are the people that are like, woke crack. And they just get so mad. But then that's like not good for us as a channel when I do a stream and we purge subscribers. So, you know, I hate the business of all this, guys. I really hate the business of all of this. Yeah, Sean, but there's the thing with me. So Sean Harriman says, love it when Michael refuses to get libbed up by the chat. The thing with me is I am so soft. I will entertain it. Like when I get like the very Libby, not the free library app, but Libby critiques, I do consider them. I take it to heart, but 8 times out of 10, I come out the other side being like, nah, I'm good. So there you go. Someone in the chat explain what chud is to Sig Bungus. Let's get to 666. Thanks for being here. Again, as Wisecrack Live, I'm your host and friend, Michael Burns. He's your host and friend and brother of sorts, producer Henry. In the chat, you're all good people spending some time trying to interact with other people that you also think are good people, or at least people that acknowledge that the way that you look at the world isn't crazy. And I appreciate that for you, and I love that for you. And just thanks again for being here. Oh, wow. A popular streamer liked our post on Twitter. Good for us. Okay, so let's check out this interview between Hasan Piker, someone who seems like a cool guy, Bernie Sanders, someone who's definitely a cool guy. Let's get into it.
Okay, perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs, we have Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont here on the broadcast. A way to finally close the circle. A person that is endlessly impactful in American politics for especially our corner of American politics. A person that I believe is profoundly important in revitalizing the leftist movement in this country.
Agreed.
Bernie Sanders, thank you so much for everything you've done, and also thank you for coming on the broadcast.
Well, my pleasure to be with you, and thank you for what you are doing. You are part of a revolution in media today, which is talking.
I wonder how familiar Bernie before this was with Hasan Piker, or if like his interns had to tell him like what streaming was. And I say that with no judgment. He's an 80-something-year-old man. He shouldn't know what this is.
To millions of people who are tuning out of legacy media, and thanks for what you're doing.
So we have a limited amount of time, so I'm going to get right into it. As far as your impact goes, I think we should probably start off with where you foresee the future of the left movement going in American politics.
Well, what I am most optimistic about is
We love
a
optimism.
revitalization of the trade union movement in this country, a growth in class consciousness, workers beginning to stand up and take on corporate greed, stand up to the massive levels of income and wealth inequality that we have today. And I think the future of American politics is bringing young people, people of color, women together in a movement led by the trade union movement, which demands that we end oligarchy in America. And that's something I'd like to talk with you a little bit about, Hasan, and move toward not only a democratic political system, but an economy where all of our people in the wealthiest nation on earth have a decent standard of living.
I love that Bernie Sanders always uses the phrase like our people, you know, when he talks about human beings. I think that's fun. And I think in general, you know, the call there for a true sort of democratic society, like what Bernie's radical cause is so fucking basic. And by basic, I don't mean like, oh, that smoothie's basic, Brenda. I mean, basic in terms of like, we just want an economy where workers and regular people have power and agency in the economy and in society, and where oligarchic forces don't absolutely dominate those people. Like, it's so fucking easy, you know? In the chat, Lori Christian says Hasan Piker is the coolest lefty dude bro around. I actually saw an interview with Hasan, I forget where it's from, over the weekend, where he said something, I might get this wrong, which was that like the thing that he gets that a lot of other leftist influencer types don't is that it's like okay to be cool and that matters. And it's one of those things that I read and cringed a little bit, but I was like, he's absolutely right. The reason why a lot of very well-intentioned, very smart, very thoughtful, left-leaning or sort of like socially progressive commentary or media falls a little flat is because the people seem like they wouldn't be a good hang. You know what I mean? Like, I think people want to spend time watching or listening to someone that makes them feel like they're hanging out with someone. Not the sort of person, we've probably all had this friend. I have some friends like this who I like a lot, but you go to get a beer with them and they're just like, and you know, I was reading this thing the other day, and like Lenin had this thing, and like, I really think that what we need to do, and it's like, dog, can we please have a beer and talk about our favorite moments from the TV show Scrubs? So yeah, that was a thought I had there. Joshua Soroka said, do you guys do much political philosophy? Josh, we do tons of political philosophy. But when you say, if so, where do you land on Hasan's political philosophies so far as you understand them? I've not watched a ton of Hasan Piker because I have a full-time job and a child. But in general, the sense I get from him is that he advocates for at least a sense of like strong democratic socialism, has a hard critique of capitalism and the American military-industrial complex. That all seems good. You know, so I guess, you know, like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. From what I know that at least I personally, and I think many of us that are involved in this channel, would share enemies with Hasan Piker, if that makes sense. That's what I would say. Someone said Bernie's my favorite old white guy. Someone said, are you seriously still supporting Bernie? Are you serious? I mean, I don't know if supporting Bernie is the right way. Matt, he's not running for anything, but I would say in terms of, you know, American political figures, it doesn't get a lot better than that. You know, like who is like a politician who, I guess I'll frame it this way. Who is an American politician in my lifetime that had the possibility of being president who's better than Bernie Sanders? You know, Rain Man Slim said Hasan's entire philosophy is like West bad. I mean, the West does kind of suck in many ways. So Jack says, can you grade dark enlightenment theory on stream like Yarvin? We've talked about it before. We have a whole video on it. So maybe check it out. And yeah, I'm becoming a gym bro so I can be like Hasan. I'm going to get so friggin' jacked. I'm going to be as big as Henry one day.
Living. That is not a radical idea. We can do it, but we can't do it unless we bring people together around a progressive agenda.
Absolutely. Speaking of the oligarchy, we of course have the anti-corruption candidate Donald Trump, who ran on draining the swamp the first time and then only seemingly worsened the conditions of the swamp, now aligned directly with one of the top oligarchs, the actual top oligarch, the wealthiest person on the planet, Elon Musk. And
we're maybe filming a video on Elon Musk and techno-feudalism today.
We
You've
are also
had
past
some
666.
Hey,
Dancing with 700.
666, guys. Again, 666. It's not a rejection of the divine as such. It's the acknowledgement that the negative exists within the divine. It's sort of like a Hegelian principle, right? We think of the absolute as this positive whole, but there's negativity within that absolute, and that negativity and the persistence of that negativity is sort of what fuels the movement of the dialectic. That negative principle, the ability to negate, is what gives us the ability to acknowledge that some of the things in our current system are not good, right? The capacity for negation lets us say this and not that, and it lets us move forward. But the importance of the 666 negativity satanic logic is that negativity never goes away. So it's not like we arrive at some position where now it's all positivity. That's a risk and that's a danger. That's how totalitarianism happens. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're saying. Also, if you want your own Wisecrack Live 666 hat, we have them for sale. Eddie Villanueva, who was in the chat earlier, I don't know if he's still here. Eddie, I feel like you posted about feeling unwell, so I hope you feel better, by the way. But yeah, Eddie designed the hats for us. Buy a hat. If anyone wants to send us a picture of you wearing your hat, we'll show it on the stream. I don't know if you want that, but I would do it. wisecracklive666@gmail.com.
Conversations about Elon Musk, especially in recent weeks. And I was wondering how you feel about Donald Trump cozying up to all of these billionaires, and these billionaires, especially in the tech sector, including but not limited to Elon Musk, cozying back up to Donald Trump and a resurgence of right-wing politics in the country.
Hasan, this is of enormous, enormous consequence. There's nothing more important that is happening, not only in American politics, but in world politics. Let's think about it for a moment. What you got in Elon Musk is, in fact, the wealthiest guy in the world, worth over $400 billion. I mean, it's just astronomical.
And that just should be illegal. It just should. Maybe that makes me a cop. I don't think it makes me a cop. Yeah, just a fake number. What are we doing?
Mentioning that, along with Zuckerberg, Bezos,
I kind of want to design hats that just say, "What are we doing?" on them.
Three of them are worth almost $8 trillion.
If you would consider buying a "What are we doing" hat, let me know.
They're all going to be at Trump's side during his inauguration. Musk is going to play an active role in, quote unquote, transforming government. What is all of this stuff is about? What it's about is moving incredibly rapidly toward an oligarchic form of society, where the very wealthiest people will not only own the economy, not only own the media. I mean, Bezos owns the Washington Post, Musk owns Twitter. But
hell yeah, Bernie doesn't say X, he says Twitter.
But also own the political system.
And along with what Bernie's saying, I'm just going to say this because this is the video we're working on this week. And shout out to Yanis Varoufakis and his book, Techno-Feudalism. The people he's talking about, these tech oligarchs, they don't just own wealth, influence, and media. I mean, they own the cloud-based systems in which we work and exist. You know what I mean? This is why they call it techno-feudalism. It's like we're basically forced to, till the digital land that these guys own. It's really bad when you think about it.
One of the issues that we don't talk about enough is that during this last election, a small, tiny number of people, multi-billionaires, poured huge amounts of money into both political parties. And that is, to my mind, not what democracy is about. So you got control of the media by the few, control of the political system by the few, control of the economy by the few. And if that's not oligarchy, I don't know what oligarchy is. And our job is to bring our people together, the vast majority of the people, demand a vibrant democracy, getting rid of Citizens United, one person, one vote, limiting the amount of money big money can spend on politics, and create an economy in the richest country on earth that guarantees a decent standard of living for all people. That's the challenge.
I mean, again, like this is the frustrating thing with the world posited or advocated for by people like Bernard Sanders and Sam Piker. Like, again, not having a small number of tech oligarchs in control of our political system, that shouldn't be like a big deal. We should all just be like, yeah, except for that, literally, except for like the amount of tech oligarchs that fit on one boat that we could blow up. Everyone else should agree with that. And then the idea that like everyone should have a decent standard of living, this thing just blows my mind. Like, this is not a radical communist principle. Just the idea, I just don't get why we can't all agree with the simple ideal of like everyone who exists in our society at least deserves to have a baseline standard of living where they can afford a place to live, afford some food to eat, afford to like have a nice time occasionally, and go to the doctor. Just not that big of a deal.
What do you think Elon Musk is going to do in terms of privatization when he is basically in charge of numerous government agencies now? Like, he's going to have control, or at least a tremendous amount more influence, direct influence over numerous government agencies, some of which are tasked with regulating his company.
And think about what he's doing here too. I know I shouldn't speak over Bernard, but when Elon Musk and people like him continue to get more and more contracts with the government, it's not just that they want to make money. Of course, they want to make money, yada, yada. Well, what they're doing is undermining the very structures and powers of the government. They're fleecing the system. They're emptying it out such that by the time they're done with it, the government's going to be this empty shell and everything that matters is going to be privatized. Think about it this way. If the military and the Space Force or NASA, if telecommunications, if eventually education and healthcare are all privatized and outsourced to these private sector people, then what power does the government like actually have? You know what I'm saying? Like, if Elon Musk has massive control over the infrastructure of digital technology, if Jeff Bezos eventually has massive control over the flow of goods and even healthcare, which is the thing that's happening, Amazon is continuing to expand into healthcare. What does the government even do at that point? Like, what power do they have other than some weird performative role to manufacture consent for the billionaires?
And it's not just, don't look at it as him having control over this or that agency. It's the enormous impact that the wealthiest guy on earth, a very smart guy and a very dynamic, hardworking guy, what he's going to have over the totality of the government and the Trump administration. What does it mean? These guys do not believe in government. They aggressively believe in deregulation. They believe in more and more wealth and power people on top right now. You don't hear Mr. Musk talking about the need to provide health care to all people as a human right. You don't hear Mr. Musk talking about the need to make sure that all of our people have decent education or live in safe, affordable housing. That you don't need. What you're talking about is an expansion and growth in technology, which will benefit the people on top, and in my view, at the expense of ordinary people. And you know what else was kind of unique about Musk? A little bit different than other guys. This guy, increasingly, you may have noticed, talking about people with super high IQs. You heard that?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
It's pretty weird. You know, IQ science has been pretty soundly debunked and also taps in to weird eugenic discourses, which we don't like. What's up, Old Greece? Did Old Greece give some memberships? Well, that's a Lord of the Chat if I've ever seen one. In my sort of world, that's what a Lord of the Chat looks like. So thank you for doing that. Someone said, genuine question, is there even that much left to privatize Medicare, Medicaid, and the post office, I guess? No, Bailey, you're definitely right. There's not a lot left to privatize, but one way to think of it too is it's one thing if privatization looks like a bunch of small contractors doing stuff. What gets scarier is when, some companies or like certain people sorry, I was looking at the chat and got distracted. People like Musk or Bezos have contracts that privatize multiple things. It gives them just a lot of power. I see someone talking about a Belgian strong ale, and I don't know what the context is, but I like it. But I like the idea of Belgian strong ales, even though I'm kind of taking it easy on the drinking this month. Shout out to non-alcoholic beer. I'm still trying to get a non-alcoholic beer sponsor.
That kind of language for a very long time. You're talking about a superior aristocracy.
Mm-mm.
Who are all so smart and know all about technology, have all kinds of wealth, who are living these extraordinary lives, and they're going to be running the world for us.
Being good at technology and money doesn't mean you have philosophical, political, or ethical intelligence. It's so insane. People like Musk and Andreessen and Bezos keep doing this. That's so dumb. They don't even read books.
And the challenge of the moment is that with an exploding technology that has the capability of improving life for all, we've got to make sure that that happens and not see more increased wealth and power going to the people on top, which is exactly what Musk is all about. These guys are smart. They are aggressive. They want even more wealth. They want even more
People are bringing
power.
up private
They
fire
are
brigades in the chat.
enormously dangerous. What's going on right now is unprecedented. This is not just, rich guys. Oh boy, I'd like some more money. I need another 14th house. They want.
And that was different. There used to be rich guys that just wanted money, and I respect those rich guys more. I don't respect super rich guys in general, but if your vibe is just like, I want a bunch of money so I can buy cool shit, I at least get that, because that's an extension of a feeling that I can understand. Like, I want to make more money. I'm sure we all want to make more money, right? But when I think about making more money, I'm like, I want to make enough money to where I could have a house with, I always talk about a media room. You know what I mean? I want a room in my house, just like another bedroom, where I could set up a nice TV or a projector, a good sound system, a record player, some good seating, and a mini fridge. And I would have that room, and I could watch movies there, and have friends over to watch movies, and the quality would be really good. I could listen to records in there. It'd be my media room. That's like my dream, right? So when I think about more money, I'm like, if I had enough money for a media room to maybe eat dinner out a little bit more and take my family on a vacation, right? I think we should all have those sorts of things. The problem is when we just want insane amounts of stuff that sort of fuck with other people's stuff, or for lack of a better term, yuck their yum. But the current billionaire class is trying to acquire a pretty gnarly level of world historical and political power just because it gets them off, I guess. I bet a lot of these guys can't come. You're going to think I'm being silly here, but it's the only thing that really explains why these guys act like that, because think about, never mind. I'll say that.
No, keep going.
Well, just
what is this theory of self frustration over pleasure?
Yeah. I can only speak to the experience of penis orgasm, but it's not an unknown thing that the post ejaculatory mood is one of just like, oh boy, like right after you ejaculate, you're not like, I want to take over the world, I want to expand my kingdom. You're just like, oh boy, and I'm just saying, if you never come, then you're just like, I'll take it all, or something like that is what I'm thinking. Just a huge dip in the viewers as soon as I did that. Let's get to 777. I love prayer.
Power to go with their wealth.
What would you say to the growing resentment from the American working class against political institutions, the elite, and specifically our government? Do you feel like this level of deregulation and privatization and the erosion of government social safety nets and government programs have contributed to that resentment?
Absolutely. Look, you're the average guy out there.
You're
not into politics. What are you seeing? You're seeing that in many ways you are no better off, in some cases worse off, than a worker in your place 50 years ago. You got that?
Got it.
Real inflation accounted for wages for the average American worker, despite the huge increase in worker productivity and technology, all the computers, all the cell phones. An average worker in real inflation accounts for dollars, not making a nickel more than he or she did 50 years ago. And during that period, a massive transfer of wealth, bottom 90% to the top 1%. And you're looking around you, and you're worried that your children may be in even worse financial shape than you are. They may never own a home of their own. You look at the government, you're hearing all the political bullshit that's out there. I'm going to do
You said bullshit.
this and I'm going to do that. And yet, maybe your job went to China. It's likely that you have a high deductible. You may not have any health insurance at all. Maybe your kid made it to college and he or she is deeply in debt. And you're saying, does democracy really work for me? Does it really work for me? And a lot of people are
we went past 777. Oh, now we went back. Never mind. Maybe I still owe you a prayer. I don't know.
Super chat.
Old Grease says addiction is using the wrong thing to meet needs. They're unsatisfied because they think they need more instead of something else entirely. That's real.
Yeah.
That's very real. I think that's in response to someone in the chat. Ed Rodriguez says, I love post-nut Catholic guilt. Ed Rodriguez, we could be buds.
We're past 777 again.
Okay, let's just do this.
Post-nut prayer.
Yeah, post-nut prayer. Dear God of consensual, safe, non-exploitative, and non-aggressive kink nuts, thank you for the ability to experience pleasure with our bodies that can be had by ourselves or with someone who we care about. Please let us take that post-nut energy, which posits that sometimes we can just chill out and don't need to be the biggest man in the castle. And let's take that to the rest of the world. Let that post-nut energy remind us that it's not about our nut. It's about being the nut we want to see in the world and creating the conditions for everyone to have post-nut clarity. And if we focus so much on only our nut and post-nut situation, we are inadvertently taking away from the nut capacity and post-nut capability of others. We ask this in the name of, Bernie Sanders, basketball player and senator from Vermont. Amen. We did it. Killing Pie, you can always get a shout out for watching at work. We love when you do this, when you watch at work. Someone asked a question. Where was it? Michael, what do you think is the place of political violence in the present system? Platonic exorcism. I think political violence, like vibes-wise and personal feeling-wise, it sucks. The problem is I don't see a lot of historical precedents for radical political change that's not accompanied by a level of violence. And when you hear me say that, do not hear me saying, I think political violence is good or moral. Not saying it's not, I'm not saying it is, but it's hard to find a historical precedent for a radical change in the political system, especially one that moves from totalitarianism or exploitation to something more liberatory. And, let's point to America. Like, America is a country founded in political violence. You can't get around that. So even if we're going to be like patriotic, good Americans, you can't not acknowledge that foundational violence. But if anyone has thoughts on this, I'd love to hear them. It's not something I'm trying to be super hardcore on or anything here. Let's get back to Bernard.
No, it doesn't. And they're willing to move toward a more authoritarian type society run by Donald Trump. What Trump said in so many words, he said, you know what, this system is broken. I'm going to smash it. Well, he's right. The system is broken. The problem is his solutions are going to make a bad situation even worse.
Alec Wixom said, was so Gandhi just doing it slow? What did, I'm saying this not facetiously, what exactly did Gandhi accomplish? I'm dumb about some stuff. So what exactly did Gandhi accomplish?
Our job is to acknowledge what Democrats don't. You know what? The system is broken. We need to rebuild the system. People together. We can do it. We should not be the only major country on earth not guaranteeing health care to all people as a human right. You think we can't build millions of units of affordable housing? You think we can't reach out to the world and address climate change? I think we can.
Well, when we think about all the tech oligarchs and stuff too, think about where their imagination goes. Their imagination, and this gets back to our 2025 goal of thinking teleologically. It's always Mars. It's always expansion. It's always, technologies that'll be primarily used by an elite rich. Why doesn't their imagination go towards large-scale, well-designed, eco-friendly public housing, right? Because that's like a thing we could do. With all of the money being used on a lot of dumb shit, there could be investments in large-scale projects in which designers and ecologists and scientists work together to design really nice looking and ecologically sustainable public housing or affordable housing on a grand scale in American cities. It could also then be accompanied by reinvestments in, transportation infrastructure, so that we're not only constructing housing that again is affordable and ecologically sustainable, but we're making sure that that housing is connected with networks of transportation that reduce the necessity of fossil fuel burning cars. That's not like hard to do. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to build rockets to go to Mars. I'll totally acknowledge that. But it's not hard to do all this good stuff, but they don't want to do it. You know what I mean? They just don't want to because they don't care.
Tough stuff. None of this is easy.
Mav in the chat said
We can do
Biden
it.
dropped a statement.
A lot of
I sent
people
you a
are
link.
essentially
Ooh, okay. Let's get through a little bit more of this, and then we'll check the Biden statement out. Oh boy, guys, get ready for that.
saying, I'm sick and tired. I've heard all of it over and over again. It ain't working for me. Status quo is not what I want. I want change. Trump may be crazy. He may be a pathological liar. He's going to bring about change. So that's what I think we're dealing with.
Do you feel like this was a crisis in communication from the Democratic Party in the past election cycle that led to the defeat of Kamala Harris?
No.
Wait, this is a good. I want to rewind just so we all get this part because I think this is important. Ready?
Democratic Party in the past.
Oops, I didn't go far enough. Fuck, I keep fucking it up.
What I think we're dealing with.
Here we go.
Do you feel like this was a crisis in communication from the Democratic Party in the past election cycle that led to the defeat of Kamala Harris?
No. I don't. I don't think it's a question.
Look to the side too. Bernie's just like, Jesus fucking Christ. And in case you missed the question, he's basically asking, like, did Kamala and the Democrats fumble the ball just because of a lack of communication? They did a bad job of communicating their message, but their message is good. And Bernie is saying no, and he gets into it. I think this is worth listening to.
No communication. I think it's what the Democrats stand for.
That's what they stand for.
So
it's not messaging is art. So if the Democrats believe, does the Democratic leadership believe that the current system is broken? You tell me. Have you heard that? People go around saying, look, there's something wrong when we have massive income and wealth inequality, when we're the only major country not to guarantee health care to all people, when you got 800,000 people sleeping out on the streets, when we have an opioid epidemic, when our public schools are failing. You know what? Guess what? The system ain't working. Do you hear Democrats say? You tell me. I mean, I'm sitting in the Beltway. I don't hear it. Do you hear it on the outside world?
No, absolutely not. That's why I was wondering what your opinion is. Is it malicious? Is it incompetence? Is it because we are now seeing the likes of Chris Murphy, for example, come to terms with.
I mean, and that's the thing too, is like we critique, just to be fair here, and in case any of you are like the like tech chuds, I respect you. I want to be a part. You're welcome to the club. But the tech chuds might be like, I don't like what you're saying about Musk and Zuck and all my boys, but the same can be said for the Democratic Party, like Harris and co. The reason that the message is the message, what they're talking about right here, of course, is because their primary goal is the acquisition and maintenance of power. The policy stuff is just secondary, right? It's how you get there. I mean, look at the, stock portfolios of Pelosi and co. These are people who are primarily motivated by the acquisition of large scale and generational wealth. If they did things that were truly oriented at empowering the working class and making a more democratic society, they would potentially be undermining their own power and their own proximity to elite flows of capital.
With a more left populist message that they want to adopt. Now, you say that it's more than just the message. It's actually about dramatically changing the policy, dramatically changing the direction away from this zealotry that they display in terms of defending third way neoliberalism, and I 100% agree with that. But will there actually be a change in your estimation within the Democratic Party? Do they actually want to win elections? Do they actually want to change the trajectory of American politics away from the throes of fascism?
Do they want to win elections? Absolutely. Are they willing to take on their corporate sponsors and people who finance their campaigns in order to do what is popular and what the American people want, which is the way you win elections. Let me give you just many examples. I mean, I can throw it out. It is one thing to say, okay, we are opposing Trump's effort, perhaps, to throw millions of people off of the Affordable Care Act. And we all agree that should not happen. It's another thing
Agreed.
to ask why it is that we're spending twice as much per capita on healthcare. 85 million people are uninsured or underinsured. Insurance costs are going up. The question there is our healthcare system broken or not? I think many Democrats are prepared to say, yeah, it's broken. We need a new system. We need to move toward Medicare for.
Oh, did the audio go out on this thing? Am I here? Okay, let me see what's going on. Let's see.
Are there
There we
some
go.
Democrats who begin?
Are we all hearing it now, guys? Friends? And again, thanks for being here. It's 11:20 here on the West Coast. This is Wisecrack Live. Michael Burns, I'm here with Henry. Someone said calling them Chudge isn't respectful. I don't know. Like, I'm a cucked out dork. You can say that. Is it respectful? I don't know. Am I a cucked out dork, basically?
Beginning to catch that there is something wrong when they.
Hot take. If you've been married for a while, this is a complete non sequitur. If you've been married for a while and your solution to your marital problems is opening up your marriage, I think that you have other problems and that's not the solution that you're looking for. You know, fucking your way to happiness, getting strange. I know it sounds potentially fun, but I just really don't buy it. I think if you pursue open relationships and polyamory as a fundamental, you know, relational ethical proposition, that's great. More power to you. I couldn't do it. I'm too toxically poisoned by coming up in like a Catholic monogamous environment. But this is the thing I'm noticing among some of my peers. It's just like, oh, that'll save it. We'll fuck other people. And it's like, dog, you haven't dated in 15 years. What, you're just going to hit the apps and be like, oh, I'm a sad guy. I don't have a lot of hair. I have a wife. Want to do penis stuff? I don't know.
They have lost a significant
clip
part
that.
of the white working class, now the Latino
Do
working
not.
class, some of the black working class. Are people beginning to catch
Hey,
on?
shouts to Fred
that
Hampton.
Maybe we've got to address some of the issues that are impacting the lives of working people. Yeah, I think some are enough. No, I don't think so.
How do you feel about the Morena victory in Mexico, if you don't mind me asking? Because we did see
Is anyone from Mexico here? The president of Mexico seems cool. The current, was it Feinbaum, Tenenbaum, the Royal Tenenbaum president?
somewhat older figure in
Scheinbaum.
AMLO transitioning power away after seeing tremendous success with the expansion of the welfare state and social safety nets and trying to target to the best of his ability inflationary the inflation crisis that many other Western liberal capitalist nations faced, where we saw historically unpopular incumbent disadvantages. AMLO was able to transfer power away from himself to a younger female candidate, Claudia Sheinbaum. So clearly, even in North America, there is an example of a social democratic party becoming even more popular
Bernie picked his
in the
nose.
aftermath of this election.
Well, I would look.
Oh, shout out to all our Mexican friends in the chat. What a nation y'all got down there. I'm trying to go to Mexico next month. A lot's been going on. It's hard to take time off work. For my 40th birthday, my wife wanted to take me to Mexico for a long weekend. Hopefully it happens. Also, I saw someone say Bernie picked his nose. Real ones do it. I think that's another thing in life. Like, we all act like picking your nose is so bad. What is your alternative? I've been alive 40 years. When I got a dry, crusty one in there, it's coming out and I'm getting it out. And I don't know what else you want me to do.
Complicated. If you do what your constituents want you to do, you know what, they're going to vote for you. I mean, it's kind of basic politics. If you ignore their needs
Mav.
and say,
Great point.
well, you just don't appreciate all that we have done for you, you don't know how good you have it, well, you know what they say, well, screw you, I'm not doing well. I would also mention to you that when we passed in the throes of the pandemic, the American Rescue Plan, which provided direct cash payment, tens of millions of Americans, extended unemployment, put a whole lot of money into.
Remember how we did that too during COVID? We just like gave people a bunch of money and like nothing happened and the economy didn't collapse.
Yeah.
But now if it's like, oh, we should subsidize healthcare, we should like subsidize education, we should forgive student loan. It's like, what are you talking about? Inflation, things of that nature. And it's like, we just sent everyone a bunch of money and things were fine.
To child care, kept people from getting evicted, lowered the childhood poverty rate through a child tax credit. At that particular point, after that bill was passed, guess what?
And I love
Biden's
it.
popularity was the highest that it was throughout his administration. You tell me, just tell me, if the Democratic Party said, you know what?
I'm not
In the
48,
first 3 months of a Democratic presidency, a Democratic Congress, every American will have health care as a human right without having to take out your wallet, because it's a human right. We're going to fund it in a.
It's so depressing that I'm probably going to die in a country where we're still debating whether people should get to go to the doctor for free. It's just so dumb. Like, what is the point of progressing? Friend of the show, comedian Skylar Higley, had a tweet the other day. I'm probably getting it wrong. If you don't follow Skylar, you should. One of the funniest comedians and just a really smart and kind person. It was something like, imagine going through all of this like human evolution to invent insurance. And I thought that was very funny. This is why he gets paid the big bucks. Because like really, like that's our thing. We go through all of the evolution and progression of human intellect and society, hundreds, thousands of years of developing ideas. And our end game is like insurance.
Progressive way, publicly, no more in insurance premiums, co-payments, deductibles. If the Democrats pulled that off, how incredibly popular do you think they would be? You tell me.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
We are close to prayer time. Oh no, is 888 secrets? Okay. And everyone can do it. At 888, I'll tell a secret and you can tell secrets too if we get to 888. So like the stream, share the stream, watch the stream, post nut the stream, whatever you want to do.
Do you think that it's the impact of money in politics that causes Democrats to be afraid of taking the initiative on issues like this? Or is it more pervasive and unfortunately scarier than that? Because I'm a firm believer that aside from the lobbying dollars, I think that there is a crisis of like elitism, I would say, where you have immediate family members of Democratic Party officials and, of course, the Republican Party officials as well that go to work in these corporations. So there is,
I mean, something we were looking into for the script we're working on that we might film today. And this is something that we don't often think about is like the overlap between Silicon Valley and the tech industry and Washington, D.C. It's just like a goddamn revolving door. Like the same people that were a part of the, hold on one second. Let's see. Sorry, work message. Okay. But you know, the same people that like worked for the Obama administration to like hope and change, then went to Silicon Valley, started working in lobbying for companies like Lyft, working on legislation that fundamentally gives power to platforms and takes power away from people. And we don't want to think about this, but like when people leave, I mean, think about it this way, and this is a dumb thing. And as we all know, I'm like a smart, dumb guy. I'm fundamentally dumb, but I'm smart for a dumb guy. If I have any skill, it's that I can understand smart ideas and express them clearly, even if I can't have smart ideas myself. But my thought is that if you get into politics because you really care about changing the lives of people, if you get into politics out of a desire to pursue systems of justice and create a more just world, when you leave political office, you should ideally do something for work that is adjacent to that. Okay? If you're a politician that, you know, spends your whole career talking about education or whatever it might be, then when you leave, work in education policy for an education nonprofit, become a goddamn teacher or something like that. But what do all these people do? They go into the private sector. They work in finance. They get deals at Netflix and Hulu and Spotify. They make media. They start investment funds. Everything they do is oriented at the perpetuation and accumulation of capital. You know, like I'll tell you this is a job. I'm not going to have this job forever. You think this whole thing's going to last? Guys, grow up, okay? I'm going to get an email one day and says that Enthusiast Gaming is shutting down Wisecrack because of yada yada, or they're selling to someone else and they're going to make like AI videos of my face or some shit like that. And when that happens, email wisecracklive666@gmail.com. Henry and I will tell you where to go next. But like, I'm part of this job, of course, making media, making content, but I actually believe like we're having conversations and trying to have conversations that encourage thoughtfulness and critical thinking about society while forming a bit of a community. If I left this and went to work in Wall Street, I hope you would look back on me and be like, oh, that guy was a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Obviously, at the end of the day, I got to like make money and feed my family, but you know what I'm saying? And when you like work and like the people that leave the presidency, Senate, Congress, they can get jobs, is all I'm saying. They can get jobs. They can do stuff, and that's what they choose to do. That's maybe a dumb take, but I'm sticking to it.
It's a more complex web beyond even lobbying in terms of the conflict of interest, in my opinion, between members of Congress and the corporate elite.
I think you're right. I think it is both factors. Let us not minimize the role that money plays, period. Every American, I don't give a damn what your political views are, should be really frightened that 3 multi-billionaires in the Republican Party could put hundreds of millions of dollars into Trump's campaign. Democrats also had many billionaires contributing. And if you think those guys...
I mean, honestly, when Wisecrack ends, I'll probably just try to like keep making stuff on my own and hope that I can figure out how to make enough money to pay rent.
Guys are doing this out of the goodness of their hearts.
Or I'll start an OnlyFans that people will pay money to not see. I'll be the first OnlyFans where people pay money for me to keep pictures of my raw flesh off of the internet.
Just
It'll
do this,
don't
but
wanna
on
see this.
Pornhub.
I know. I want to be like the first Pornhub streamer, and I'll be like, yeah, you can't see it off camera, but I'm banging away, banging at it, doing it hard, guys. I don't even know. I can't even talk about sex. I get uncomfortable watching sex scenes. We were watching like a movie the other day, and there was sex happening, and I was uncomfortable. And my wife was like, "Are you 12? Like, what is? We made a kid. Like, you've done it at least once." And I don't like it. Maybe it's the Catholic
You
upbringing.
don't
I
even
don't
have
know.
to talk about sex. You could just keep talking about current events or current ideological currents just
Yeah.
on the platform.
Now, 1 second.
Be mistaken. Obviously, they want to elect candidates who will represent their interests. And the second thing related to kind of what you are saying, Hasan, is that people live in a certain world. One of the crises of the corrupt campaign finance system we have is not only the impact of money. Many of my colleagues are spending
What's up, Lenny
20,
McDonald's?
30% of their days. You know what they do?
Porn comments are hilarious.
They're not out talking to their working class constituents. They're on the phone raising money from wealthy people. They're going to house parties with wealthy people. When you surround yourself with folks who have come from a certain world perspective, I'm running a corporation. Let me tell you about all my problems I'm having. It's not, hey, I can't pay my rent. Let me tell you about my problems.
Again, just basic true stuff. Most politicians spend more time appealing to businesses and wealthy people than listening to you and I.
You live in a certain milieu, I think, is what you're talking about, and that becomes separated from reality. Does that take place? Is that happening? I think it is.
Yeah, I noticed that I was the most out of touch with the outside world when I was directly at the DNC, despite being online the entire time. That I definitely noticed that there is a bubble surrounding, I would say, the Rust Belt for sure, or not the Rust Belt. Sorry, the DC class and the media class. I think are certainly.
It really is. It really is. I mean,
certainly removed.
It really is.
I think it's important to remember too. I get why some people are skeptical of, let's say, more left-leaning politics that sound like they want to give more power to the government. I know that would be maybe the thing that like your right-wing uncle that goes to Brad Paisley concerts might be upset about. Shouts to Brad Paisley. But you also have to think about the fact that that left-wing call to give more power to the government is also a call to make the government fundamentally more democratic, right? The idea, I think we think about the government as this monstrous entity or algorithm or thing that controls us. But the democratic ideal, going back to the Greeks, is that we have a system such that there is a clear line of influence between the people and the government. The way that's gotten fucked up, and Bernie's describing it right here, is rather than listening to us and normal working people feeling like we have an influence on the politicians we elect, they just hang out on the phone with Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan Chase or whoever it is. You know what I'm saying? So while I understand that fear, the point would be if we're letting the government do more stuff for us, we're also making the government more accountable to us. Is that a pipe dream? I don't know.
Yes, I've said this sometimes, and it's not just the politicians, it's the inside the Beltway media. I cannot recall, I have done 12 zillion interviews in my political life over the years. There's nobody who's come up to me and said, Bernie, we have massive income and wealth inequality. What do you think we should do about it? Bernie, what are you going to do about the fact that 25% of seniors in this country living on $15,000 a year or less? What are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about the fact that so many people are homeless? Those are questions that one is not asked. One is never asked about income and wealth
Like the strain of you had,
inequality,
please.
for example. Just not on, it's not part of the mindset of media or, for that matter, politicians. And we got to break through that. We have got to break through it because it is on the mindset of ordinary Americans.
So switching gears a little bit, but going back to the Democratic Party's performance in these past 4 years under Joe Biden, where would you rank Biden's performance across the board? Because there were certainly a lot of good things that occurred. I think pulling out of Afghanistan was a success, and it was the appropriate thing to do, even though it was not defended adequately by the Democratic administration, in my opinion, and the media definitely was very gung-ho about continuously punishing Biden. There were also initiatives, like you said, the
Say what you will about Ann Porkins, but Channing Tatum, good-looking guy.
expansion of child tax credit, and wonderful work done by the NLRB and many.
I know I was talking about toxic masculinity last week. I know I'm pausing too much, but I'll say this. A big key in breaking with your toxic masculinity is when you can be like a straight dude and recognize that like dudes are like handsome or cool looking. It feels really freeing. I remember the first time I was like, oh man, yeah, Matthew McConaughey, I get it. And it was like, great, let's go. So I encourage every, toxically straight dude out there out loud today, say the name of a man you find handsome. It'll be freeing.
Other regulatory agencies like the FTC specifically. But it did seem as though, one, these successes and the impact was not seen as tangible things that the American working class could associate with. But outside of that, do you feel as though it didn't meet the standards that are necessary for improving the material conditions of the working class right now?
Excellent question. And here's the answer.
Oh, no.
Accomplished domestically.
I'm realizing that on the show we're watching, the one from Bernie's page and now Hasan's, you see someone's like control bar on the bottom of the computer screen. That's really funny. Oh no, audio, come back.
Wait, you're cutting out.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
1 second, sorry. I don't know what happened. You cut out a little bit. What you said, excellent question. I didn't hear anything after that. Sorry, Senator.
Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
I think if you look objectively at what Biden has accomplished domestically, it is probably the strongest record of achievement since anybody, since FDR in the 30s. What you're talking about is rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure and creating a huge number of jobs, making real progress in rebuilding manufacturing in America. First president really to take on big pharma and have some impact in lowering the cost of prescription drugs, most notably beginning to negotiate prescription drug prices under Medicare, investing very heavily in climate change and sustainable energy, a president who is unashamedly pro-labor, walked on a picket line with the United Automobile Workers. That is a strong record. That's only part of what he did. Problem is, the record is strong, but I think he was not been the kind of leader and communicator that made that record understandable to the American people. And second of all, even more importantly, well, that is an admirable record that he should be very proud of. I'm proud to have worked with him on some of those things. The truth is, given where the American worker is today, it is simply not enough. What the American
Yeah, because I even think a lot of the gains that have been made recently haven't really done that much.
worker is crying out for.
Oh, super chat. One time I got pulled over by a police officer that looked like Sterling Archer, and I was like, dog, he looked at me, wasted on me, and a cop. That's amazing. Wow. Once I was in an ambulance, and one of the paramedics looked like Nicolas Cage. And as I sat there with my broken arm dangling off my body, I remember being like, you look like Nicolas Cage. Maybe it was. I wouldn't put it past Nicolas Cage to randomly go work for a few days as an EMT in Central Florida.
Is why are my wages today no higher than they were in real dollars 50 years ago?
Couple of things. One thing is that we have a new video on Severance. The TV show Severance comes back on Friday, but we have a video coming out tomorrow on the Wisecrack 2 channel. I'm pretty proud of it. I think it's pretty sick. And if you're on our Patreon, you already have that video. So if you pay for Wisecrack's Patreon and you don't like go on there very much, check it out. We put that video up earlier this week. And just another shout out, this stream is partially brought to us by our friends over at Wildgrain. I told you about Wildgrain on Monday. I almost said yesterday. Wildgrain's this place, and they send you bake from frozen boxes of breads, pastries, and pastas and stuff like that. And you know, they got your back if you're like gluten-free or plant-based or whatever. It's pretty fun. They send you stuff. It's frozen. It's good. In 25 minutes, you put it in the oven and it's hot. Like I said before, the thing that I have liked is croissants. Croissants?
Croissants. You're calling croissants.
Croissants. That's the Catholic version. But however you say it, I like warm coffee and warm pastries in the morning. It makes me feel like I'm a little French prince. And if you want to feel like a little French prince, you could also use, Wildgrain. Deal is you go to wildgrain.com/wisecrack. You use our code there, and you get $30 off a box, and you get free croissants. So I think that's really cool. So no matter, and this is good for me as a big croissant head, whatever you order, you're getting free in your box. So, check out wildgrain.com, use the code Wisecrack, and you'll be eating croissants. Let's watch a little bit more of the Bernie thing. We probably won't make it through this whole thing today, guys, but you know what? You can go finish it because you know how to use the internet. You're all great at using the internet.
We could have raised the minimum wage to say $17 an hour. It would have made a hell of a lot of difference in the lives of millions of low-income people. If we could have expanded Medicare, at least, cover hearing, dental, vision, home health care, would have made a real difference. I think also, while President Biden has accomplished a lot, he does not do what Trump does and identify enemies. Who are the impediments to progress? Well, Trump has his ideas, all undocumented people and it's transgender people, whoever it may be. He has a set of enemies, kind of change every day, but they're out there. But I don't think the Biden administration is strong enough in saying, you know what, we've got to stop the greed of the corporate
History
world
not going to
right
look
now,
kindly
not just the
on
drug
Biden.
companies,
It is what it is.
but the insurance companies, the sectors all over. They talk
Drift
about
King,
it, but not
we're
quite
far from raw
forcefully enough.
dome.
And to
Maybe
present specific policies to deal with that.
No secrets
Alina
today. We're not
Khan,
there.
who is, I guess, in the next few days, remains a chair of the FTC, has done a brilliant job.
Absolutely.
And is one of the heroines of that administration. I think you got to be clearer in saying, why is it that the rich are getting richer and so many other people are struggling. We need an explanation for that. I'm not sure that the Biden people were as strong on doing that as they should have been.
Well, I just checked the Wildgrain link because I want to make sure it works. When you go, it says, "Hello, Wisecrack fan," and it says free croissants for life.
We don't have a lot of time, so I want to ask you something about the Green New Deal.
Green New Deal?
In your Green New Deal proposal, you proposed $18 billion increase in national spending specifically to address the more frequent and severe wildfires plaguing the American West. This was, of course, widely panned by the media and also politicians that are backed by the oil and gas industry. And yet the $18 billion is marginal in comparison to the total damage that we've seen in California, in Los Angeles this past week. Some estimates ranging from the most conservative estimates ranging from $50 billion to upwards of $100 billion.
Breaking news. Mr. Beast might buy TikTok. That's a real thing.
How do we communicate to the American public that initiatives like the Green New Deal are an absolute necessity going forward in order to truly tackle the climate crisis that is going to seemingly increase these extreme once-in-a-lifetime natural disasters?
Great chat.
That's the problem. They're no longer, Hasan, you're exactly right. They are no longer once in a lifetime. They're no longer once in a decade. And by the way, while I'm here with you, let me just, I love LA. I get out there fairly often, and what's going on is unimaginable, and I know people are suffering. I'm just so worried, and
it's not good.
We're going to do what we can to help rebuild LA. Your point is, well, I think there are 2 points that need to be made.
Also, for those of you who don't know this, just to give a sense of the scale, like 2 neighborhoods and areas of LA kind of just like don't exist anymore. It's pretty intense.
We have got to come back to every ounce of strength that we have.
What's up,
people
that one
like
accountant?
Trump who think that climate change is a hoax. This is, as I understand it, the warmest year on record, followed by 9 preceding years, which were the warmest years on record. Climate change
Nelly called it.
Change is real. What you're seeing in LA is part of what we're seeing all over the world, of massive climate disturbances. And it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. I mean, it's horrible to almost think of this. Say that what's going on in LA today will become fairly common in years to come. But unless the global community,
and there's like every indication this stuff's just going to keep happening, which sucks so bad,
comes together, recognize that we got to change our energy systems, we got to take on the lies and the greed of the fossil fuel industry. We have to do what the Green New Deal is about, create millions of good-paying jobs in energy efficiency and sustainable energy, and we can do it. We can do it. And yes, what the Green New Deal was about is saying, look, that in itself is not going to solve the global climate crisis, but it'll give states and communities better resources in order to deal with the crises that are definitely going to come as we try to transform the system.
Do you feel like the back and forth political conversations or even blaming the likes of DEI or whatever the new Republican thing is on any given basis?
That's insane. Bill Burr did a good thing on Jimmy Kimmel last night. The clip's all over Twitter and other things. If you haven't watched it, look it up. Bill Burr is really killing it these days, where he talked about the stupid responses people had to this. But yeah, like sometimes I get so depressed. Well, like, that could just be full stop. Sometimes I get so depressed. But sometimes I get so depressed, in particular, at this type of discourse, which equates reactions to fires with like DEI. I mean, first of all, any of the dudes on Twitter who were like, these women can't respond to fire, like Matt Walsh and stuff like that. Like, you go fight a fire, dog. Go do it. Go risk your life to help others. Oh, wait, what was that? Oh, you're just going to make shitty transphobic documentaries? Oh, you're not going to risk your life to help others? Oh, go shut the fuck up. And just the way these things get weaponized is just So weird. And this even connects to the stuff we talked about Monday with Mark Zuckerberg and like removing DEI programs. I mean, say what you will about the annoyance of corporate programs or whatever it might be, but like women having jobs isn't like DEI. You know what I mean? Because the implication, I don't know. It really depresses me.
Is simply a misdirection away from the actual the actual reasons as to why anthropogenic climate change is accelerating these extreme weather events.
It makes me furious. It really does. Now, presumably what's going on in LA is all because you have a Democratic governor.
Someone said we haven't reacted to this. I'm reacting. If you want takes and reactions or different, I'm reacting. You know what I mean? I think we don't get YouTube pilled and think a reaction has to be like, okay, pause there. Well, what he just said there is crazy. Eat Beast chocolate. It'll give you diabetes.
A Democratic mayor.
Shouts to Beast
But then
Games.
they're going to have to explain why we've had all this terrible flooding and other disasters in very red states all across this country. You got to be a moron not to understand that climate change does not give a damn whether you're a Democrat or a Republican.
I mean, that's disgusting, fundamentally anti-human, anti-whatever, anti-Christian, if we want to be right-wing about it, that people in our government are trying to punish California for being a blue state and holding out, like Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, is doing this, holding out or making conditional relief funds. Wild, too, that, you know, Los Angeles County on its own, if it were a state, I think would be like the 5th most populous state in the country. So the scale of what's happening is pretty extreme. And the idea that like angry senators from Louisiana or Iowa would punish California because like people do gay here is very weird.
It is real. So yes, this is simply an attempt to deflate attention, much needed attention, on why climate change is causing devastating problems
Diabetes,
in LA, throughout our country. My small state of Vermont, in the last number of years, has been hit time and again. Floods which have wreaked havoc for hundreds and hundreds of homeowners, small business people. Our state capital is still impacted by the flood we had a few years ago. So this is a global crisis. Those people who are still trying to deny it in order to protect the profits of the fossil fuel industry, I really don't understand it. Their kids are going to suffer. Their grandchildren are going to suffer. I don't know what they think they're gaining by playing a political game with an issue of such.
I mean, just really the collective psychosis that we're also, and again, I drove a car here today. I mean, it is what it is, but like the addiction to melted dead dinosaur bones is just wild.
Existential importance.
It seems like it's a short-term profit seeking,
It's almost like the dinosaurs didn't die and they're here to kill us too.
which has absolutely eviscerated American manufacturing, as well as ruined even the consumer experience that Americans have in general over year. It's basically a race to the bottom, putting the interests of profits over the interests of people. I had another question about this in particular. Mike Johnson has made inferences to potentially offering conditional aid to the state of California in terms of recovery. In your experience, you've spent many decades in American Congress.
Beast insulin.
Have you ever seen this level of politicization in the aftermath of any sort of natural?
Also, if you're in the chat, it's cool to not like Bernie. I don't mind. You don't have to like people.
Disaster. And do you
Just
feel
don't say
like
anything
Mike
crazy.
Johnson is doing this specifically because they want to potentially use as a way to pass through budget?
Is Mike Johnson the one who him and his son have the app where it lets them know if the other one is gooning to pornography? Yeah, I think I really think that's true. Someone, Henry will look it up in the chat. Let us know.
Reconciliations without much problems down the line.
Yes on Johnson.
I think I have
Yes on Johnson.
seen a little bit of this stuff in the past.
I get what you're saying there. That's not unfair. at all.
Not to the extent that we're seeing it right now. It really is. You know, Biden and Obama, I think if you check their records, they gave out disaster relief and other types of federal funding really to red states quite as generously or ungenerously as they did to blue states. They really did not discriminate.
If my parents would have given me the middle name Johnson and then people called me Mike and not Michael, and you said my name fast, it would sound like my Johnson burns. It would sound like I was describing venereal disease. When I was in high school, some people did still call me Mike. And at one point, I told people that my middle name was Hunt. I'm not going to say it, but say it out loud right now. Say Mike, middle name Hunt, last name Burns, just as one thing.
Michael Hunt Burns.
Mike Hunt Burns.
Idea that the largest
Immature.
state in our country, which has been just devastated by this terrible fire, that they are going to be playing politics with disaster relief is unconscionable. Between you and me, I don't think that they will succeed, because what goes around comes around.
I wish Bernie would look at me one day and say,
I don't want to
between
see
you
if,
and me.
you know, God forbid, Idaho is hit by something. We say, well, it's a Republican state. We're not going to give them the help they need. This is America, you know. We're a 50-state country and we have territories. We treat all people equally. And there is a disaster. What being a country is
If
about.
we're calling Bernie a communist
We all come
leader,
to
guys,
each other's aid.
you got to
If
Google
Vermont
communism.
gets hit hard by something, I expect the people of California to help us. California gets hit, people of Vermont got to be there for you. It doesn't matter whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever you are. That has got to be the basic tenet.
Imagine knowing
how
what
we
porn
do
your dad
federal
watched.
disaster relief.
One last question I have for you before I let you go, and thank you so much for spending time with us today. I've heard from your team that you.
Oh, the last question's about basketball. It's fun, you know. Hasan might play basketball with Bernie. Bernie's a baller. We all know that, so that's cool. I mean, yeah, I think it's fun. I mean, if anything, I think that the interesting thing about that interview is simply that Bernie Sanders, love him, hate him, like him, leave him, touch him, squeeze him, has been the most influential mainstream, you know, left-leaning politician in America for the past decade. I mean, more than that, but at least in terms of being in the public consciousness. And I think him going on Hasan's stream shows the influence that people like Hasan, but not just Hasan, like that the, you know, stream, YouTube, digital space can have in terms of having these conversations. I think that's a good thing. I think it's objectively a good thing. I saw some people say that the interview felt like a little bit tame. I mean, at this point, it is true. When you're to get someone like Bernie Sanders on your thing, like you're going to have the questions before time. There's a team involved in it. It just kind of like is what it is in that way, you know? But I think that's a cool thing. And I think like Bernie in a lot of ways is a good gateway drug, like marijuana. What's up, Bobby and Two Crows? In so much as, you know, I think Bernie asks a lot of questions. I think Bernie normalizes a lot of things. Like, for example, he normalizes mainstream politicians just being like, I don't know, we should have healthcare. You know, Hasan Harris in the chat says a European conservative would agree with most of what Bernie said, but not good old-fashioned American conservatives. That is true. Again, I didn't, you know, I moved to Europe, well, crap Europe, the Queen's Europe, when I was in my early 20s. And honestly, I didn't realize for most of my life that what we called the liberal position in America is like a social conservative position overseas, and that stuff that Bernie says isn't at all radical, you know? And yeah, we can agree to disagree in the chat, guys. That's fine. But the thing is, if you disagree with anyone in this chat, you do have to meet them and fight them physically. Someone in the comments to the stream from Monday talked about how Mark Zuckerberg would like kick my ass, and it's like, okay, sure. You know what I mean? But guys, and I'm gonna admit something to you guys. What I'm about to say is irrational, and I know it's irrational, but I still kind of think I would dust Zuckerberg because I feel like I just don't see the dog in him. I don't care how many classes you go to learn how to do martial arts. Also, you know, if it's Zuckerberg, they're just telling him he's good so he can get paid more. I don't care. He doesn't have the dog in him. I've seen Zuckerberg talk. He has a little twitch to him. He doesn't have the killer instinct. He talks about killing pigs. I don't know, man. I just don't think he has that dog in him. I don't. But also I would bring a knife. And when he didn't see it coming, I'm kidding. Well, guys, that is our stream for today, Wednesday, January 15th. and this will be the last stream we ever. No, I'm just kidding. One day, one day I'll probably say that, guys. It's
I'm getting
inevitable.
noticed we said the wrong thing in the first half of the stream, so
Yeah. So we're done now. No, it's true though. Someone's gonna watch this. But I would say, if you're in the market for coffee, check out Yes Please. Link in the description, 20% off. If you're in the mood for a box of frozen bread, you throw in the oven for 25 minutes and get Wildgrain, you get $30 off. It's worth checking out. You get free croissants. And remember, if you get a Wisecrack 666 hat or mug and you want to send us a picture of you using it, we'll put it up. We'll put it on the stream. We'll show it on the screen, all that sort of stuff. Monday, we are officially off work. It is Inauguration Day. Henry and I will talk about this. There's maybe a world where we stream from Wisecrack. I shouldn't say this, but I will. If I take the day off, I'll probably stream from my personal channel for a bit that day and just hang out and watch the inauguration and have an existential spiral if that's something that interests you. Thank you so much for hanging out, guys. Yeah, go catch Hasan's coverage of the ceasefire. Saw someone bring that up. Hey, let Hasan know in the chat that we watched him today. Yeah, you guys have a really great week. I like you all so much. The chat was really awesome today, and I'm excited to see normal comments after the fact. Happy MLK weekend for all who celebrate.
see you next week, y'all. Bye.